I've heard things, They say stuff like this world, it's not kind, but I don't know, I'm kind of sitting here and not being bothered by those monster men.
For those of you still waiting in the dark corners of Lodren, hoping for a Dark Souls 4, it's time to extinguish that last ember of hope. I'm here to tell you, stop hoping. There will be no Dark Souls 4. And if you're thinking, but surely there's some chance, right? Nope, not even a flicker. The mastermind behind all our suffering, Hidetaka Miyazaki himself, has made it crystal clear with the Ringed City DLC, the cycle of Dark Souls is over. No more cursed knights, no more friling shrines, and definitely no cute waifus waiting for you at the first bonfire. So, who was your favorite though? Let's be honest, we all had one, right? But the real question on everyone's mind is why? Why in the twisted experiment of game development do we still not have Dark Souls 4? Well, grab your Estes, light a bonfire, and let's break it down. Before we get into whether Dark Souls 4 is even remotely possible, let's start with the big question. Why is the series really over? Now, Miyazaki is one of those rare creators who always pushes the limits of storytelling and gameplay. You can feel his passion in every Souls game. The lore, the atmosphere, the relentless challenge. It's like his brain is an endless labyrinth of misery. In a good way though. But some people believe it's wise to leave great things alone before it risks self-destructing. I mean, we've all seen it. Just because something is successful doesn't mean it should be milked to death. Yes, I'm looking at you, Ubisoft, and Activision, you of course. I still have nightmares about your open world checklists. If you look closely at Miyazaki's interviews, you'll notice something. He's always chasing new horizons. He's not content to just sit by the same bonfire forever. He's that one dungeon master who's constantly crafting new worlds, fresh lore, and even deadlier bosses. And honestly, can we blame him? But it's not like we didn't get any better game, right? Did Elden Ring disappoint you by any means? I mean, no, right? It was even better. It was built on the formula which already worked. So with the release of Elden Ring, it simply eliminated the need of Dark Souls 4. And at the end, Miyazaki sat down after Elden Ring's release and thought, well, Dark Souls 4? Nah, I gave you 172 bosses in Elden Ring, I'm done. As I told earlier, Miyazaki said Dark Souls 3 DLC Ringed City wrapped up the story pretty well. Dark Souls 3 felt like a proper end of the cycle. The Flame, the Lords of Cinder, the linking, everything came to a grand, cryptic, totally mind-bending close. The ending of Dark Souls 3 is deeply tied to the cyclical nature of its lore, with multiple interpretations that leave plenty of room for speculation and debate. The game offers several possible endings, each one hinting at different conclusions for the Age of Fire and overarching fate of the world. All of Dark Souls 3 endings revolve around the central themes of cycle, life and death, fire and dark, and the inevitable decline of the Age of Fire. Each ending hints at the futility of trying to prevent the passing of ages, as well as the possibility that even after the fire fades, some remnant will always remain to spark a new age. The world of Dark Souls is one of entropy, where nothing lasts forever, and each cycle of flames brings about its own set of tragedies and rebirth. Miyazaki himself has mentioned that Dark Souls 3 was intended to close the book on the series, with the idea that Age of Fire has run its course. However, the ambiguity of the endings leaves room for interpretation, which is one reason why the series continues to fuel so much discussions among fans. By the time Dark Souls 3, however, this cycle has repeated itself countless times, and there is a growing sense of exhaustion. Both the fire and the world it sustains are crumbling. The time for a new beginning, whether it's through the Age of Dark or something entirely new. In the final DLC, it's revealed that Dark Souls has scattered among humanity, and the future of the world may lie in the hands of humans, not the gods or the flame, thus ending the story and yet another reason for Dark Souls 4 not to exist. Elden Ring is Dark Souls 4. Yes, you heard that right. There are plenty of wild theories out there claiming that Elden Ring is actually Dark Souls 4 in disguise. But it's not just a theory. Elden Ring delivered everything we could have wanted from Dark Souls 4. From the expansive world to the brutal bosses, the stunning graphics and the refined combat. Everything in Elden Ring feels like a true evolution of what Dark Souls 3 built. So simply, Elden Ring is Dark Souls 4. Just with more freedom, more world, and more room to die in humiliating ways. Maybe there is a secret area which opens to filing shrine. But for that, you have to defeat DLC Radhan with level 1 stats. Oh, people have already done that. Wow. So with all that knowledge, do you still believe Dark Souls 4 is still possible? Yes. I think there is always a possibility that at some point, Elden Ring and Dark Souls might connect. I know I'm sounding crazy like I'm creating some wild theories, but this could actually be true. Both games are crafted by Hidetaka Miyazaki, and he might have a plot with these two games. Let me explain. Both games are built around the idea of decaying world, where ancient powers are fading and a new cycle is about to begin. In Dark Souls, this revolves around the cycle of the Age of Fire and the inevitable Age of Dark, while Elden Ring focuses on the broken state of the Golden Order and the scattered Elden Ring, which once governed the world of the lands between. In both cases, the protagonist is a chosen figure who must decide the fate of these dying eras. The protagonists of both Elden Ring and Dark Souls share strikingly similar roles. In Dark Souls, you play as the chosen undead or unkindled, a figure bound to a cursed fate, rising from the ashes of death. In Elden Ring, you are the Tarnished, a warrior exiled from grace, returning to seek power and restore the Elden Ring. Both characters are outsiders who are called upon to fix the broken world, defy fate, and decide the future of realms they inhabit. Both the undead and Tarnished are bound by a curse or fall from grace, leading to a journey of redemption, power, and inevitable struggle against godlike figures. Both Dark Souls and Elden Ring revolve around the concept of powerful essences. In Dark Souls, it's souls, humanity, and the Lord Souls that define strength and control over the world. In Elden Ring, the Great Ruins and the Golden Order define power. Souls in Dark Souls are tied to the cycle of life and death, whereas in Elden Ring, runes are tied to order and chaos in the world. At a deeper level, the connection between Dark Souls and Elden Ring may be more symbolic than literal. Both games reflect Hidetaka Miyazaki's ongoing fascination with themes of decay, power, and existential struggle. Miyazaki has a tendency to revisit certain motifs, cycles of death and rebirth, crumbling civilizations, cursed protagonists, and the manipulation of humanity by godlike forces. While he might be exploring new settings, these motifs carry over between games, giving Elden Ring a spiritual connection to Dark Souls. Elden Ring feels like a natural evolution of what Miyazaki explored in Dark Souls. The open world design, deep lore, and intricate world building all feel like the next step in his ongoing exploration of dark fantasy worlds where ancient decaying orders give way to new beginnings. Many fans speculate that Elden Ring is a continuation or spiritual successor to Dark Souls, thanks to the shared themes, concepts and world design. Some even believe that Elden Ring could be set in a distant future or the past of Dark Souls universe, with the outer gods playing the role of Dark Souls' ancient primordial forces. However, this remains unconfirmed, more of a fan theory than official lore. And then there are fans who go all in, claiming that Elden Ring is the bigger picture of Dark Souls, existing in the same universe but in a different dimension. Maybe the lands between are what happens when you mash up in the Dark Souls and Bloodborne. I mean, it's not totally out there, right? Some fans even think the Lord of Frenzied Flame ending in Elden Ring could kick off Dark Souls universe, since that chaotic fiery conclusion kind of mirrors the intro of Dark Souls. And let's not forget the Rani ending, which people argue could be the setup for Bloodborne. After all, both endings have an obsession with the moon coincidence, right? The lore detectives think not. So, to all the hopeful Tarnists still waiting for Dark Souls 4, let's face it, it's probably not happening. Miyazaki has moved on, and the Ring City DLC was the final blow on the series. And honestly, maybe that's for the best. Elden Ring delivered everything we could have asked for in Dark Souls 4 and more, taking the core of what makes Dark Souls special and expanding it into the world so vast, it's easy to get lost for hours. It's like Miyazaki took the soul-crushing challenge and gothic beauty we love, sprinkled in some open world magic and said, here, enjoy. And at the end of the day, Dark Souls series didn't need a fourth installment because it already left us with a lasting legacy. A legacy that evolved into Elden Ring. The bonfires have burnt out, but in their place, we have got giant earth trees lighting the way. So let's not mourn the absence of Dark Souls 4. Instead, let's embrace the fact that we've got something even better. And hey, if you're still feeling nostalgic for those cursed nights and filing shrines, there's always New Game Plus, or you could just replay the entire trilogy for the 100th time. You know you want to. In the meantime, if you're still craving punishment and cryptic lore, feel free to dive back into the Dark Souls trilogy, or just spend another 200 hours trying to beat Elden Ring's Malekuth without throwing your controller on the TV. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out any of my deep dives, file theories or gaming rant. Let me know in the comments what do you think. Would you want Dark Souls 4 or are you happy with how things ended? Until next time, keep those Estus flasks handy and I'll see you at the next bonfire and the new waifu. Oh yeah, you haven't told me who is your favorite though.